I'm Lin-Manuel Miranda, and you're listening to Hard Knock Life.
Well, because I wasn't planning on recording today because Dominic is out and he doesn't really watch wrestling and no one else does.
Yeah.
But I was like, Jamie Noguchi, one half of the Fucking Do It cast, not wrestling podcast.
We are not a wrestling podcast.
He would be able to talk about WrestleMania, so here you are. So here's some backstory. I used to watch wrestling in the 80s like everybody else.
Yes.
And took a break, came back during
Attitude Era.
Well, I was a WCW guy. I watched Nitro more than Raw.
Okay.
And I only went to Raw because of as The Rock became more prominent and like The Rock and Mankind's like feuding, and then they became the Rock and Sock Connection.
The Rock and Sock Connection.
That's when I started watching WWF, but I was always a WCW guy. I was a WWF guy in like the 80s because of Hogan and Randy Savage but all that stuff.
I will not say a kind word about Hogan. Ugh.
Well, here's the thing. Before we get any further, it's hard to say a kind word about any wrestler, really, because like prior to the weekend, I know like everyone on like liberal Twitter was like, The Rock won't endorse Joe Biden, and it's like, well, I mean, if we really want to break down everyone's like personal opinions.
Yeah, I don't think you want to know about The Rock's politics because I think he's a hardcore conservative dude. Like there's like, yeah, and it doesn't really. I mean, he's I'm sure he's still friends with Vince McMahon. Like, yeah, I mean, we should not go to wrestlers for political opinions because that's not something that I personally expect from them.
Yeah.
And also it's already a super problematic business. They've got other shit to deal with. They've got like so many demons to battle. We don't need to heap more upon them.
Yeah. And that's the thing. And I want to kind of like just lay that disclaimer because yes, we're going to talk about WrestleMania. We're going to talk WWE, an organization and company that has a very, very problematic past. Its former head is we don't want to talk about Vince McMahon and what he's done.
I mean, I was real surprised Stephanie showed up because
I thought they would distance himself from anyone. I mean, the fact that Triple H is like a default McMahon just because he's married into the family is such a prominent figure still. But yeah, Linda was a former cabinet secretary in the Trump administration. Like there's just too many problematic things. Yes, to talk. But I mean, Pat McAfee, even though he's like a mainstream ESPN guy, he's like always has Aaron Rodgers on his podcast talking about anti-vax shit. So like
he stopped. He prevented. He kicked him off and like.
But then I don't know. I feel like when the NFL season starts back up, Aaron Rodgers will be back on podcast.
Gross.
So like, yeah, I mean, McAfee's a problematic person in his own right. But anyway, like because he's like the Joe Rogan of sports, in my opinion. You know what I mean? All that said, yes, on the Nerds of Color, we're going to be talking about WrestleMania. So if you have an issue with that, I would tune out this week and come back next week. Because holy shit, like, I hadn't cared about wrestling in a long time, and I started like again listen to your podcast. I was on the periphery understanding about like The Rock's return back in January.
Oh yeah.
But like this last like 4 months has been some of the best stuff I've seen since like the Monday Night Wars. I feel like.
Yeah, I'm glad they turned into the skid and changed it because like there was a real danger of The Rock's return squashing any momentum Cody had, and like if Vince was still in charge, like Cody would still be fucking Stardust, and he would never have been headlining.
He'd be still in AEW if Vince was still in charge. I think.
Yeah. Like Cody's journey is kind of fucking epic. Like he was stuck at WWF or WWE as this gimmick character. No one took his ass seriously. He was
feuding with Green Arrow, for God's sake.
Yeah, like he knew what his worth was, and he refused to let anyone else shape that. And then he just barnstormed all the indies, like New Japan, came back.
He pretty much started AEW.
He was there with the Bucks and Kenny Omega, and Cody was there, and like came back and fucking to like you can't not say it, but he finished the fucking story. Even though you heard that like 20 times over the weekend, but like it's true. It's kind of true. Like that's the beauty of wrestling. They take real things and incorporate it into their hyper reality, their bullshit. And you know,
that's kind of always been my favorite aspect of pro wrestling. Like,
yeah.
80s notwithstanding, because that was when they were all just superhero cartoon characters, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But like the Attitude Era and the Monday Night Wars was that blurring of the fiction and reality, the shoots and the works, right?
Yeah.
And because I remember like the holy shit moment in the 90s was when Kevin Nash and Scott Hall showed up on WCW before they had officially announced that they had left the WWF, right?
Yeah.
Like, so
well, for your listeners who aren't in the know for wrestling terminology, can you explain what a shoot and a work is?
Well, so like from my rudimentary understanding, shoots are when they're telling the truth about what's happening, kind of like breaking the fourth wall.
Yeah.
And works or angles is when it's in storyline.
Yeah.
And so like they've been kind of like back and forth about, wait, was this whole thing with Rock interrupting Cody's like, ascension a work, or was that always like you said, were they turning into the skid? Did Rock really return to say, I'm just going to shoehorn myself into everyone's stories,
and
then we'll pivot? Or was that always the case? I mean, it's hard to say in wrestling, but I feel like it's the latter.
With The Rock, I feel like if Black Adam did what he thought it was gonna do, I don't think we would have heard from him. I think it would have still been an excellent WrestleMania, but I think it would have been an excellent WrestleMania without The Rock. And I think because his movie star is kind of dimming, like Black Adam did him no favors, so he came back to the Fast and Furious franchise. I think he's seeing the writing on the wall, and he's trying to ensure that he has a future. And so he's a known property in wrestling. He always gets a pop in wrestling. If he can be part of management and keep his foot still in that arena, he can still have a career, even if his movies are kind of going. Ugh.
But I think, and I'm saying this as the casual who popped back in because of The Rock. I was that person that they were going after.
Exactly.
Right. And so like I will say that like I didn't care about Cody Rhodes' story and Roman Reigns until the Bloodline thing. The Bloodline's been a whole thing for. I mean, I've caught up on YouTube and everything. I know the Bloodline's been the story brewing, and we'll get into it a little bit, but like the fact that The Rock came back, I would like tune in and go, oh, that's cool. He's doing his catchphrases again. I guess he's going to wrestle, Roman Reigns for the title. And really like where I started kind of like, oh wait, should I pay attention? Was at the Super Bowl with their press conference.
Yeah.
And that's when, again, kind of the blurring the lines of like, is this real? Is this fake? And so like when Cody Rhodes kind of came out, I was like, you know what? That was bullshit last week when you made me kind of like step aside. I'm challenging Roman Reigns, and Rock slaps Cody there. And then what I loved about this storyline and the fact that without The Rock I wouldn't have like been bought in is that, and then the blurring of the reality lines is like after the press conference, like you see Dwayne kind of confronting Triple H about this is bullshit.
Yeah.
And then it's like, wait, is this like, are they really like mad at each other? And then my favorite part is all of the promos The Rock cuts on social media.
Oh, of course.
Which is a new angle that like, kind of again blurs the line, but it's not something that we had when we were growing up watching wrestling.
Yeah.
Those have been epic. The 20-minute Instagram reels.
Yeah. WWE wants to capture you on all your devices, because a lot of people, when they're watching wrestling, especially, they're checking Twitter, they're checking social media, they're checking Instagram, because people are updating in real time. Like fans from the audience are capping stuff, and so like the fans are more tuned in to the bullshit than ever before. So it just makes sense for them to kind of weave all of these things in. I feel like before, if Vince was still in charge, they would have continued with the squash, and Cody wouldn't have main evented Mania. But I think because Paul Levesque, Triple H, is in charge, like he's done an amazing job with NXT. He's taking the women's division super seriously. And so when he heard the cheers when Rock made his debut and he heard the cheers of people yelling for Cody, I think, Paul's not a dumbass. I think they had a plan and they're like, we need to take advantage of this because this natural heat doesn't come often. And if you can play into that, then you have the biggest fucking WrestleMania 40 was already supposed to be like a big one. The 40
literally extra large.
It's extra large. And if you can take that natural heat and like strap it to the show and like make it a booster, come on. Like,
well, that was the other layer that was awesome, is that like The Rock not only, helped Triple H with the pivot, he was like, well, here's where we can make it even more interesting. Because he came in as the face. He was like, Roman Reigns has been the heel for a while.
Yeah.
And I'm challenging Roman Reigns. And
I'm gonna be happy dappy deepy.
Yeah, and then it was like, oh wait, what if I'm not only like heel Rock again, but like the heelest heel that ever
like
healed.
Super heel. Because Rock got big as a heel.
Right. I mean, Hollywood Rock is like a lot. I mean, this was after he got big, but Hollywood Rock, I think, and they brought back the Hollywood theme.
Yeah.
Was kind of like the peak of like Rock's rockness when, because that was another time that WWE shifted, right? Because the last time I watched WrestleMania live was, I think, was 18. Was that the one where Hogan versus The Rock the first time?
Maybe 18.
And it was like,
maybe.
And he was still NWO Hollywood Hogan.
Yeah.
But like the crowd was like so amped for Hogan's return.
Yep.
In that match, that like all of a sudden Rock became the heel, Hogan became the face.
Yeah. And
then they rematched a year later with like Rock really leaning into his Hollywood persona. And that was like, I think the most, successful The Rock has ever been as a character.
Yeah.
The Rock kind of brought that back, but like to the nth degree for this run.
Yeah, he's always been kind of a heelish anti-hero.
Right.
Not quite babyface. Like he would always do some tricky shit. But like I think it works best when they take that natural heat and like let it sizzle and fuck with it and like give the fans what they really want. They really wanted Cody's story. Like Cody's been like, to bring it back to the beginning, like he had a storyline that he had to fucking finish.
Well, and if anyone's listening who doesn't know, like Cody Rhodes is the son of a legendary wrestler from the 80s that we grew up watching, Dusty Rhodes. And the story is Dusty Rhodes never won the WWE championship. He's won every other title known to man, but he's never won the WWE title. And then his children also never came to those same heights, because Cody's brother is Dustin Rhodes, who is Goldust.
Goldust.
And I guess he's still part of AEW because he couldn't like come out for
we were wondering who was going to come out, because it's quote unquote bloodline rules. And if you can define what bloodline rules mean, then you deserve all the money in the world, because we were watching this thing and we're like, what the fuck does the bloodline rules mean?
There was nothing happened. Like I thought they would be like around the ring the entire time. And
a half hour of nothing. And then people started coming in and are like, all right. But like, what the fuck does that bloodline rules? You can't look that up on Wikipedia. Nobody knows what the fuck that means. Paul Heyman,
it means whatever you want it to mean. It's the Schrodinger's cat of wrestling rules.
Yeah. But yeah, we were happy.
So, but the story would be Cody finally reaching the mountaintop in the WWE that his brother and his father never did.
Yeah.
Right. That's the story, as far as I like.
That's pretty much the story. That's the legacy. And we were kind of thinking that like when all the people were coming in, that like that somehow Goldust would have gotten permission from AEW to show up, but it didn't.
But see, I wonder, like, if could Dustin have come in the Goldust makeup at least, because then he would be the character Goldust and not Dustin Rhodes.
Yeah, he could have. They could have done it anyway, and I feel like Paul and Tony could have worked something out, because it's Cody's moment, and like I don't know Tony Khan's and Cody's if they have beef or not, but I imagine like Tony Khan would see that this would be an this is your boy, help form this company, come on, you want to give him that moment. But It didn't happen that way. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. But yeah, the other person that we thought was gonna come out was Stone Cold, because like with The Rock coming, he had his best run against fucking Stone Cold.
Yeah.
Like that was fucking epic. That was the height of the Attitude Era. That brought in people who were not wrestling fans to watch what the fuck was going on. And we didn't hear the glass break.
And you know, I almost feel like it was a blessing in disguise that Stone Cold didn't come out, because it led to the biggest pop of the night, and that's when the lights went out and the bell tolled and Undertaker showed up
in a fucking hoodie. God.
Well, I mean, that's what he looks like now.
Come on, bro.
At least he didn't come out in his biker gear. He wasn't Biker Taker.
I would have had more respect for the American Badass, because it would have meant he paid money to have somebody tailor that shit instead of just, oh, I got a hoodie, let me put that on.
Well, you know, it's also, I think, like they were probably negotiating with Stone Cold until like the last minute, and it was like,
oh, interesting.
And Stone Cold was like, no, I don't think so. So we're like, Taker. But the reason why I think because everyone was expecting Stone Cold.
Yes, yes.
The fact that he didn't come out and it was Taker's music, that pop was enormous. And then to me, it makes more sense that Taker's like, I'm the real final boss of WrestleMania, not you. Because, you know, like Taker's whole gimmick, his gimmick has been like, I'm a dead guy. But it's like his other gimmick is I never lose at WrestleMania.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I forgot. I think he lost. Didn't he lose to Kevin?
He lost his last match and then he retired, I think.
To Kevin Owens, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, I understand it from that angle. He is Mr. WrestleMania. But he looked like a hobo off the street.
Well, it's the lights going out and the music. It doesn't matter what he looks like, you know. It's just that he was the one. I mean, yeah, so that was the last 5 minutes of that Cody Roman match last night was
a big old schmaz.
Was when everyone came out. Like the Usos had come out, Solo comes out, and then it's like, okay, this is the Bloodline rule set. But we want to see who the nostalgic wrestlers are going to be, because John Cena shows up, and then The Rock, and then they all do their moves. That was like what everyone was waiting for.
Yeah.
My what I thought was like actually interesting, actually going back and reading some of the storylines, was Seth Rollins actually being the most emotional and story centric interruption.
The Shield shit,
because he came out in the Shield costume and the Shield music, and that was like Roman had the chance to either hit Cody with the chair, hits Rollins with the chair.
And that's one of the failures of the camera work that evening, because we didn't see Rollins come out at all. Like all of a sudden there was a cut, and then Rollins is already on the floor. And
right. That was bad camera work.
That was bad camera work. I mean, WWE is known for like exceptional camera spots, but they fucked up that.
Like they didn't know where Seth was coming, because he came out of the crowd and they were like looking for him.
Yeah, that was the one moment where I got up off my seat and I turned to Brandon and I was like, who's back? Because Moxley's still on AEW.
Right. He was the original third member of
like Moxley's still there. Is Moxley coming back? And then it was Seth, but by the time that buildup happened, like Seth was already on the floor, so we missed it. But that was like the one I literally got off the fucking couch and I was like, Brandon, what the fuck is happening?
Well, you know, like here where I was confused is that so the Shield comes out before Undertaker does. So like Rock had already rock bottomed John Cena, and he looked like he was about to whip him with his weight belt.
Yeah.
And then the Shield music hits.
Yeah.
And it takes a while, because like the Shield, I guess, usually comes out of the crowd. So you're like, who's coming out? Like you said, is Dean Ambrose coming out, or is because like Seth Rollins has his own music now. He wouldn't come out to the Shield music.
Yeah.
And then the camera angle shows Roman Reigns jumping into the ring.
Yeah.
And I thought for a second, like, wait, is Roman Shield again? I thought he was going to hit The Rock. That's what it looked like in the, you know, but then he hit Seth Rollins, because you didn't see Seth Rollins come in the ring. So it was like, for a second, I was like, this is a weird turn. I didn't expect it.
I think if we did see Seth coming in, it would have made a lot more visual sense.
Right.
Because then we would see like, oh, Seth isn't having this shit anymore.
Right.
And he's playing the nostalgic card and be like, look, this is what we used to do, and now you're fucking with this guy. I'm gonna punch him in the face.
Yeah, and then but it goes back to like, and then after all the smoke clears, Roman has the steel chair, and he could have hit, like, Seth Rollins wasn't doing anything at that moment, but it's like the emotions of the last 10 years and all that stuff kind of like plays into it.
Oh yeah,
because if he hits Cody with the chair, he wins the title, but he hits Seth Rollins and Cody, they're able to
we were in the Shield, but that's old shit. I didn't have a personality.
Well, that's another thing where I was like, coming into the storyline now, having not watched wrestling for a while. I know, again, being familiar with it, I knew who all the people are. I know like the major outlines because I'm a toy collector, and like wrestling figures is such a big part of like toy collecting. I'm always aware of everything. I don't sit down and watch Raw every week. But like, I always thought no one gave a shit about Roman Reigns. I thought he was like, the fact that he's like had this long title reign and he has fans, people do the chant with him before he spears.
Yeah,
like I was like, oh, people like Roman Reigns now?
That was work. That was work on Roman's part in sticking with it, because for the longest time he was being pushed as the golden boy and everyone hated him. He was being pushed as this super baby face. Like after the Shield stuff, they were like, Roman is the guy. Roman is the guy. Everyone fucking hated him. And like he couldn't cut a promo to save his life because it was all scripted. And so
he's still not great on the mic, especially with like The Rock's return.
Yeah.
And he overshadowed Roman Reigns through this whole story.
That's why he got paired up with Heyman.
Yeah.
Because Heyman can cut a promo on anybody.
Since ECW times.
Yeah. But like Roman has had it tough. Like people were booing him when they put the strap on him. People booed him when he was champion. People booed him and booed him and booed him. And I was wondering if they're going to ever let him go heel, because when he talks naturally, he's kind of funny. Like when he was on Up Up Down Down, the Austin Creed's show about like video games and stuff, he's funny. Like Roman off script is fine. He's great. He's fine. And when they finally made him turn heel, that's when they took that natural heat and that those boos became cheers. Because and the same thing with The Rock. Like people booed the shit out of The Rock all the time. And so he turned into it. He was like, well, if I'm going to be a heel, I'm going to be the cockiest ass heel in the world. I'm going to come out with these $1,000 suits, the Versace's. I'm going to have my glasses and my people's eyebrow, and people, all those boos turned into cheers.
Yeah.
And it finally worked with Roman, and they paired him up with the best mouth in the business. And, and now definitely people give a shit about Roman Reigns. It took a long time. It took a long time, but everyone's in. Everyone's in now.
And I think what doesn't help Roman is that because of his leukemia, he doesn't wrestle a lot either. Like the entire time he's been champion, he's probably wrestled like 20 times.
Sure.
In the entirety of the reign. And so like, and again, that's the fact that he wrestled both nights was also pretty astounding, because for someone who like probably wrestles every other week.
Yeah.
And the other thing too is like, me kind of getting back into it. I still never watched an entire episode of Raw or SmackDown. I just kind of tuned in for like
the highlights and stuff.
The highlights or like the last part when The Rock and Cody would confront each other. And what I realized like that entire time was like, wait, I don't think I've watched one wrestling match for this entire bloodline story.
Yeah.
When The Rock returned.
It's a soap opera. It's a fucking soap opera. It's issues of comics. It's like, the day-to-day might not be interesting, but the whole story it tells. And that's part of it. That's part of it.
I don't thank God for YouTube, because I think like the other difference between when we were watching wrestling in the 80s and 90s is that they do make these like mini movies on. It's kind of like watching all the cutscenes in a video game together. You don't have the game.
Yeah.
And it does catch you up on everything pretty succinctly to like get you hyped up for like the big pay-per-view.
Their production team is excellent at building hype, and they're fast too, because they'll cut a package together with shots of the night. Like I whoever's working in the back room on the production team, WWE, they deserve some awards, because they put together amazing packages every fucking week. They get you hyped, they catch you up. It is like mini movies. It's like it's a wonder why they haven't done better with the films that they've produced, because they know how to tell a different
kind of movie.
They know how to tell stories. They know how to tell stories.
Well, telling, pro wrestling stories and is like, you said it's like comics and soap operas, because the other aspect of that is like it never ends.
Sure.
So like, as much as last night felt like an end game, tonight's Raw, I'm sure it's going to kick off. It's going to
kick new shit off. Yeah. I mean, the Raw after WrestleMania is always the highest viewed show because it kicks off all the new storylines.
And I think like where I fell off and I still don't quite understand is like the brand split and like how Raw and SmackDown are supposed to be two distinct entities, but they kind of aren't anymore. Like, all the wrestlers kind of interact with each other anyway. But they still kind of keep it as like, here's a Raw champion and a Smack, or now they unified the title, so like there is no Raw versus SmackDown. And the other thing is that like I don't even understand the lineage of some of these belts anymore, because like Seth's belt is essentially the old WCW title, but they had got rid of that title and that belt, the World Heavyweight Championship.
Yeah.
And then they brought it back last year and gave it to Seth and changed the belt or whatever. And it's just like, what belt is this? And then the whole Drew McIntyre like thing last night was kind of funny, where he finally
he finally got it. Well, because I remember watching that WrestleMania during COVID. I think Brandon and I talked about that one. And Drew won, and he's like in the middle of the ring, and it's just screens around him, and it's just like this is great, but this is also depressing as fuck. So I'm glad Drew got his moment, but
for 5 seconds.
For 5 seconds, but like Brandon pointed out that this is the best way to keep the feud with Punk
until he heals.
Although we were kind of like, he pulled off his cast and started like beating him, and then he didn't have his cast on at the end of the night. So Brandon and I were like, has this been a work this entire?
He just didn't want to wrestle.
He was just being a lazy fuck.
Yeah, I know how. That's another thing I've gotten from listening to your podcast is that neither of you really like CM Punk as a person.
He's kind of a dick. He's kind of a dick. He's fascinating to watch though. Like, he gets under your skin. He cuts great promos. Like, you can't deny that he's a showman, but like it feels a lot like he goes in for himself. Like, he talks a good game about like being for the workers and all that kind of stuff, but like his actions indicate otherwise. And that's
that's one other thing that say what you will about Dwayne, like he will sell your moves like nobody's business.
He will.
And he takes bumps at his age. Like, a lot of people were like doubting the fact that he would even wrestle, or like it would be a 45-minute tag match. Like, there's no way he's going to hold up. And the fact that he like not only did the entire match, but like took a rock bottom through a table, and he took one of Roman Spears, like, which didn't play into like last night at all. I thought there would be more made out of Roman and Rock's.
That's also why I wanted Stone Cold to be there, because no one sells a stunner like The Rock. Like,
he bounces off.
Actually, Rusev did the best stunner sell one time. He just kind of like bounced up, rolled off, and then rolled off the ring, and it was so amazing. It was just.
Oh, my favorite part of Undertaker's choke slam is that he choke slammed Rock out of existence, because when the lights came back,
the line was gone.
Not only was Taker gone, the Rock was gone too.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I said, we'll see how much I continue to tune into WWE after WrestleMania. I will say I was entertained.
Yeah.
And
the two pay-per-views I watch are Rumble and Mania. Sometimes SummerSlam if I'm around for SummerSlam, but Rumble, always a pleasure, always a joy to see like what random stuff is going to happen, and it's fun. The Rumble game is fun.
You and Brandon came up with a drinking game.
Yeah, next time we have to invite you over, because you're fucking close.
Yeah, I live down the street from
Brandon. You're down the street from Brandon. And then Mania is always awesome. TLC is fun. Tables, ladders, and chairs. Elimination Chamber, I forgot why I didn't watch it, but the two pay-per-views I make sure to tune in are always the Rumble and always Mania, because Rumble leads into Mania. If you haven't caught up on all the stories, they'll recap it during the Rumble, and then they pay it off at Mania, and then between the times, sometimes the cards will change. You'll be like, how the fuck did that happen? But they'll catch you up.
Are you an AEW guy at all?
I haven't been. It's just I've heard excellent things, and I've watched a couple of them, but it hasn't been as often as WWE stuff, just because I'm old.
I mean, they kind of are the inheritors of WCW in a way, right? Because they're on like TBS and TNT,
yeah,
and a lot of like, they do have that like second fiddle status to the WWE, which
yeah,
and there are people who are passionately into AEW and hate WWF, so like it reminds me of some of the Monday Night Wars, but it's not quite at the level yet, I don't think.
Yeah, I feel like they have a very talented roster, and every time I've seen a match, it's been jaw dropping. Like they put in the work, they put on a good show. It's just that, like, family and stuff, you gotta kind of pick and choose. The ones that you see. But the one thing I will say is, anytime you're watching wrestling, it's always better with friends. Like it's better with a crew of people. One, so you can ask, what the fuck is going on? But two, you have when some shit happens, you'd be like, oh. Or if the match is going too long, you have someone else to talk to. Sometimes the matches go too long and you're like, what the fuck does this bloodline rules mean? Nothing is happening. There's been no blood. We don't know what the rules are. What the fuck?
Yeah. And why couldn't they just say no holds barred, right? Like that's what it used to be called.
Yeah.
I mean, I know you didn't really watch the night before, but the tag match was more bloodline rules than last night, because they were like, there was at one point they were all outside the ring and the ref started counting, and the Rock, he points at the ref, he's like, if you count one more, I'm going to fire you. And so the ref was like, oh, okay, I guess I won't count you.
That's dope.
That seems to be like, that makes sense as bloodline rules, that the ref can literally not do anything the Rock says.
Yeah, that's funny. The ref is only here for the pinfall.
as long as Roman's on top.
That's great.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad I was able to talk wrestling with the non-wrestling podcast guy.
Non-wrestling podcast. Hell yeah.
When is Fuckin Do It coming back? I know you were out for a while. You were vacationing, and will the podcast be back soon? I think we're planning on recording tomorrow. We'll see what happens. But we actually had a wrestling filled weekend, because Friday evening we went up to Connecticut for a wedding of a pro wrestler. So one of our friends, Keith Youngblood, he got married to his fiance Daisy. So we were invited to the wedding, and so we made a whole wrestling weekend. Wedding Friday, and then Mania Sunday, and then Saturday I took off because it was a long trip. You had to like get from one place to the other.
Yeah.
Well, that's the other thing that's different, is that Mania used to be a one-day affair, and now it's an entire weekend.
I feel like this is better, because Mania used to start at like 4, and then you stay until like midnight, and then people have to work. So splitting it also gives you more room to breathe. Because before Mania, there was no fanfare. Like, you go up, you do your shit, get off, get the next person up, get off, get the next person up, get off. And then, because it's like 8 hours of wrestling. And now, split between the 2 days, I feel like they have more room to breathe and develop some of their fancy bullshit. And some of the matches can take a little bit longer if they need to, and some of the matches can be shorter, so you can, it gives them more room. And I think it's better for the athlete.
I mean, you can't imagine after like 7 hours by the main event, like the crowd is gassed. Like it doesn't matter what you're doing in the ring, the crowd is probably like dog tired.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's why I think, for a while, when WrestleMania was still one day, maybe that's what prompted them to. And I think the roster expanded too, and they just had too many matches.
Yeah.
Because you had 2 different championships and everything. Like the brand split, I think, necessitated a longer WrestleMania event than just
so many belts. There's so many belts.
Well, and I don't understand some of them.
So many fucking belts.
Like, and they incorporated all the WCW belts, because like they still have the US title and I can't believe Logan Paul's a fucking wrestler.
That pisses me off more than. Not only that, his fucking brand is the sponsor in the fucking middle of the fucking mat.
Which is hilarious when Cody kisses the middle of the ring, and like the last night he just kisses like the prime bottle.
I hate that. I hate that motherfucker.
Yeah.
Like, that.
But yet he's not only like, he's not just the celebrity guy, he's the freaking US champion in the WWE. But
I had a bad.
It's stuff like that makes me not want to watch wrestling.
Yeah, I had a bad feeling that Owen and
Randy Orton
were gonna put him over. Like when I saw them doing that goofy shit at the entrance, I was like, oh no, they're gonna put him over. They're gonna beat the shit out of him though. Like if you see at the end of the match, Logan Paul had like the hamburger meat on his arm and he was like all red in the chest. You notice that at the end of a lot of the other matches, the wrestlers don't look like they've been beat up. So I think Logan has some real heat in the back room. And Randy Orton and Kevin Owens were like, "You're gonna win, but we're gonna make you earn it, you little bitch." And they chewed him up. And I'm thankful.
How long has he been in the Federation? Because like he was at WrestleMania last year, wasn't he?
I think that was his debut.
Oh.
But
is he like an actual like?
It wasn't his debut, but I think that was like his big.
But he's like actually like going to like show to show. He's doing like house shows and stuff, or is he just like?
I think he's doing all that shit.
Well, hopefully Mike Tyson murders his brother in the ring when they face off.
Please, motherfucker,
on Netflix.
Please, Jesus Christ.
Why are the Paul brothers a thing?
They are so terrible, and people keep watching them.
Here we are talking about them, so let's stop that.
Yeah.
Jamie, thank you for hopping on and last minute to talk.
Hell yeah.
I feel like this is like the crossover fucking Do It Hard Knock Life that we keep, hinting at. One day we'll merge like the Avengers. But today is not that day.
Yeah.
It's just a preview. How can people find you on the interwebs and find your podcast?
I am one half of the Fucking Do It cast, part of the Hard Knock Media podcasting network. Otherwise, you can find me jamienoguchi.com and also put my name in your Google thingy and a lot of my shit will come up. So
do you still do the social medias? Which one are you most active on now?
I'm most active on Twitter. I do have my own YouTube channel, Draw Jam, which I've been trying to build up. I
love that channel.
Yeah, I do art related stuff there. For a while I wasn't doing much with it, and then like I was like, oh, I could do more. So I was like doing videos a week, and I was like, this is unsustainable. So now I do a video whenever I have something that I feel like is something that I have to say. So it's at least once a month, but I try to do like 2 or 3 a month. So
love the production value on the Draw Jam video,
thank you.
By the way.
Thank you.
Like camera work, the editing, top notch, dude. He's like a real YouTuber. I'm so proud of you.
Trying. I just gotta get more view hours, and then I could get monetized.
Yeah, I was surprised. Why don't you put the videos on not this channel, but on your main channel where you do have like several thousand subscribers?
I wanted to split them. I wanted to keep them separate because I wanted the Draw Jam to be focused on art related stuff. The Jammin' channel, Jamie Noguchi stuff, where I host
it's only Fucking Do It now.
Yeah, it's only Fucking Do It. But before it was just random thoughts and just random vlogs and stuff, and it didn't really have a focus. So I was like, well, let me put my bullshit over there and then have a focused one. So that's why there's a brand split. Personal brand split.
Yeah, the Raw and SmackDown of Jamie Noguchi.
Yeah.
Well, check out Draw Jam. It is an awesome channel. The videos are great, and of course, check out the Fucking Do It cast. I feel like sometimes I text you out of the blue and you're like, oh, Keith's listening to the podcast right now. So like, I'm like responding in real time, and I feel a little silly sometimes, but
that's good. I love it. We have 3 viewers. It's you, a guy named Vince from Canada, and no, actually we have 2 viewers. It's just YouTube. YouTube, but it's great.
Yeah,
we do our cast for YouTube. You guys,
I respond in kind. So, well, thanks for doing this podcast, and hopefully I will be invited on Fucking Do It again in the future. And until next time, turn around. Don't stare up at the sun unless you're an orange former president.
Yes,
and look at the sun all you want.
Yeah. I can't believe we're running that storyline again. God damn it.